Now, how did they manage to set this up on a worldwide scale? How did they manage to do this even in Protestant ranks? And how did they get control of nations that call themselves Protestant without anyone knowing how it was done? It takes a brilliant mind to do that, don't you think? It takes a brilliance which is supernatural in order to achieve this. Now the general, at the time, just before the mortal wound which Rome received when it lost its political power in 1798, and the period just thereafter, was General Ricky. And the Protestant world was warned by all the great Protestant leaders, beware of these systems. Martin Luther had spoken very strongly, and nations had formed on the principles of either Catholicism or Protestantism. The Protestant nations were already wonky because they were already sending their best children or the elite children to the Jesuit schools because they had such a good name and such a good reputation and such a scholastic image. But the Word of God was missing. And the Protestant nations had rejected Jesuitism and prevented them from taking hold. So how do you hoodwink the Protestant world? Well, General Ricky's war, at the 19th General Congregation, Ricky was elected Superior General. And during his reign, suddenly, the Jesuits were being expelled all over Europe. An amazing thing happened. And they had expulsion from Portugal the year after his election, 1758. And the history books tell us that the people were sick and tired of political intrigues and the machinations and workings of the Jesuit order. So Portugal banned them in 1758. France banned the Jesuits in 1764, all during the reign of Ricky. This is now what history tells us. This is what Wikipedia writes. And the helpless Ricky saw it all. And the helpless general of the Jesuit order wrote letters to all the Jesuits over the world and said, pray, pray, pray. We're going through terrible times. Be humble. Pray, pray, pray. Now, I have a question. These nations that banned the Jesuit order one after the other, were they Protestant nations or were they Catholic nations? Now, who controlled the morality and the thinking and the strategy of those nations? Wasn't it the Roman Catholic Church? Because there was a massive divide between Protestantism and Catholicism. So the Protestant nations rallied together, and the Catholic nations rallied around their church. So who better to organize this than Ricky himself? So is it possible that neither Portugal, I'm just asking a question, history will say I'm wrong. Is it possible that Portugal and France and Spain and Naples and all these countries only supposedly rejected the Jesuits? Well, it was very realistic because they dumped them onto ships, and those that were old and frail died in the process. They shipped them off to the Vatican, and the Jesuits spread out in the secular world. Some of them left the church, became secular. Some of them clung to their priesthood and became normal, non-Jesuit priests, as it were. And the Jesuit order disappeared. Now, the Vatican hadn't banned the Jesuit at such a stage yet. The spiritually inclined superior general sent circular letters of fervent perseverance in prayer. Then, after his election, Clement the 14th took harsh and humiliating decisions against the society in order to placate its enemies. So apparently, under pressure from all these Catholic nations, the Pope himself banned the Jesuits. This is what the history books tell us. But political pressure went on unrelenting, and the Pope finally suppressed the order. And this was the order of 21 July 1773. The main reason being that he wanted to restore peace in the church. So the Pope suppressed the Jesuits.